Welcome back, Soulfull Society, to Soulfull of Wellness,
the multi-generational podcast brought to you by two functional imperfectionists
and certified coaches
who deliver tips to live your most authentic, balanced, and anxiety-free life. Do you ever zone out while someone's talking? Of course you do. We all do. The average human has an 8-second attention span. With so many distractions competing for our time and attention, listening attentively to someone else speak can be surprisingly challenging.
Today, we're talking about how you can be a better listener. This will make you a better friend, parent, spouse, coworker, the list goes on. Giving someone the space to express themselves is truly the greatest gift you can give them, which is why today we're going to go over 6 tools you can start today in order to become a better listener. Thanks for joining us for another week of wellness goodness. We so appreciate you. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that follow button and please leave us a rating and review. We love reading your reviews and it also helps more people find us. So thank you in advance.
Today we're talking about how we can all be better listeners. Focus is hard. Listening, hard. It's a challenge to walk into a conversation without having my agenda being forefront in my mind and your agenda being forefront in yours. With the hectic, chaotic, complicated pace of life today, people are even more committed to our own agendas.
For sure. I mean, we're living in a time when it's challenging to be consistently aware and intentional because so many things demand our attention. Our brains haven't truly caught up to the technology that's feeding them, leaving us very overstimulated. I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, overstimulated in so many areas. When I'm in a conversation to somebody, I'm interested. It's not that I'm not interested. I really genuinely care about this person, but still I find that my mind's going, oh crap, you got to remember to get gas on your way home. And then I'm like, oh my God, stop, focus. And then it's embarrassing because sometimes I have no idea what the person was just saying, yet I'm standing there face to face with them and I have to say, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that? And I'll just own it and be like, I zoned out for a second. Can you repeat that? But it's still embarrassing.
Yeah. And I think our brains are becoming accustomed to have everything at the palm of our hand, right? Oh, thinking about, I got to get gas, I got to do it now because we can do anything right now, right? I can look up the weather right now. I can look up flights. It's habit. I compulsively reach for my phone and immediately look it up or do something. I was up till 12:30 last night, telling myself I want to rest. And I thought about something and I whipped out my laptop and there I was. So, I mean, it's so true that there's so many competing demands right now. Our brains aren't used to doing one thing at a time. And so listening really involves that intentionality and presence to focus on just one thing, the person speaking.
It's really important if you want to be available to hear the words they're saying, but underlying that, the message, the information. And it's not just the words, it's tone, it's voice fluctuations, it's expressions on the face. All of that is a lot of stimulus coming in that it's easy to get distracted by, or as you're looking at somebody, what's happening over their shoulder. And it's really hard to make the brain focus so it can take in all of what the person is communicating and only what that person is communicating, not the competing distractions for my attention all around. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Being open to hearing and really receiving new information, not just information that validates or confirms what we already think or how we already feel or what we already believe, but also open to learning new and different things.
This skill is really going to enhance your relationships, which enhances your wellness in turn, which is really what we want. So here are 6 ways to become a better listener and in turn, a better friend. Number 1, listen to learn, not to be polite. Interesting, right?
It is a different foundation or a basis for the platform of listening.
So a lot of the times when you're listening to someone, especially maybe you're at a cocktail hour at a wedding or a party or something, and you don't know the person that well. And again, right, your mind is competing. There's so many distractions going on, and you're meeting this person. We all have a tendency to do this with loved ones in our lives too. So this isn't just an example for when you're with an acquaintance, but a lot of the times we listen at level 1 listening. So this person is talking to you. They're saying, "Hi, Kit. So nice to meet you. Yeah, this party is fantastic. I actually party planned myself. I just had a party the other week. It was so great." And you might respond, "Oh my gosh, yeah, my friend's planning a wedding. We've been talking about it all the time. What are you doing?" You're relating the conversation to yourself. So you're immediately thinking about, how am I going to respond to this? And how can I relate to this? Which is innocent, right? Maybe you're trying to bond with someone, but in actuality, you're not really listening. You're listening to respond.
It's your turn to talk, and then it's my turn to talk, and then it's your turn to talk, and then it's my turn to talk. And our turns come off something the other person said, but don't go deeper into the meaning of, in this example you gave, you talking about your career as a party planner. I'm just playing off that and going, ooh, my personal related experience is...
Right.
Instead of digging deeper into what came up for you, which is what you really want to talk about.
You're going to make a lasting impression on this person so let's say, use the same example. I'm a party planner, and you say, "Oh, that's so wonderful. What do you love about that?"
Yeah, good question.
Boom, you're listening to learn instead of listening to be polite. You're getting curious. You're approaching the conversation from a totally different angle that people are not used to being actually listened to. It's pretty wild. It's a true treat and a gift to give someone, the gift of active listening.
We have a tool for how you can set yourself up to do more of this. Each day, ask yourself, what am I going to be curious about? How many things am I going to be dead wrong about today? These types of questions effectively open your ears. It frames you to have a beginner's mindset as you walk into the conversations you're going to have that day.
Very cool. So to wrap up this tool, listening to learn, not to be polite, really what that means is like listening is good, but the intent has to be that curiosity, not generosity, right? The politeness of, engaging in conversation and
chit chat.
Right.
It's not just chit chat.
Tool number 2, quiet your agenda. So while you can't control someone else's listening habits, you can control your own. It's good to know what we can control. And that involves quieting your mind. Easier said than done. Definitely acknowledge that.
Yeah.
This one is tough.
Yeah. Never promised you easy.
Yeah.
Just what you can do. It's tough.
So to turn off those agendas that we have in the back of our mind and to really listen to what someone is trying to say, simply be open to information that's disconfirming, not just confirming information. So let's say your friend is going through something and you know they're probably going to bring that up when you see them, and you're already have preconceived notions about what to expect. So you're going to go into that conversation and look for confirmation bias instead of actually approaching it with tool number 1, a sense of curiosity, and tool number 2, quieting your agenda. It's tough. It really is. But if you go in with a bit of a more open mind, you're going to get more out of it. And so are they.
As coaches, we have to quiet our agendas because we are the platform that is the safe space for the client to dig deep. If I let my mind wander, I'm going to lose my presence in that moment. That's potentially going to cause my client to lose focus. If I can stay present in the moment, which isn't always easy, but with practice, those skills grow. It helps my client stay present in the moment and coherently process through whatever it is he or she's working on in that moment.
Beautifully said. And if you're actively listening to the client, you can then respond with a helpful question to really ignite in them that answer that they're looking for and that growth that they're seeking. So that's what we say, listening is such a gift. And if you think about it, it takes a little bit of the pressure off of you because really you're just focusing on another person. And how memorable is that too for them? Wow, I had a really wonderful conversation, because it's so often that we don't truly feel heard. You've been in those conversations where it's one-sided and someone is responding just to respond. It's like you might as well not even be there. And so too often we're met with that. So I just think it's really cool to have such a unique tool.
It really does take the pressure off, especially for our friends with a little social anxiety. It reminds you that it's helpful when it's not about you. So your job isn't to come up with something new or fresh or different or solve a problem. Your job is to be a platform, to be the listener. Possibly the value you add to the conversation is allowing the person to dig deeper to uncover some answers or some problem solving for herself. Tool number 3, which you alluded to being the next step, ask more questions.
Right. It's the simplest way to be a better listener, asking questions, be curious. And it does. It takes that pressure and that spotlight off of you having to come up with some sort of impressive answer or witty response. That way you can genuinely be present in the moment and ask some questions. It creates a safe space for other people to share. And they feel like, wow, this person's really engaged with me and seems to really be interested in what I have to say.
I can tell you from my personal experience that it is really interesting and kind of rewarding when you see someone respond to your question, because at first they have that puzzled look like, no one's ever asked me that before. I don't have my pat cocktail party answer ready to go. And then the information's processing. And if you can just hold the space with them and let them work through, well, what is my answer? And then they start talking kind of usually before they have an answer, because it isn't your typical chit chat. And they'll start talking. And then you see the relief wash over when they realize they really do have a response that maybe isn't what they give to everybody, but it comes out.
Yeah.
And you can see the energy level pick up when they actually get enthused about what they're saying, because they're now more engaged in the conversation.
Yes. You can see it in their face. You can feel it energetically. Yeah. There's something happening. And it really does set you apart. It's like, wow, I feel really valued after that conversation. Cool. I feel really bonded with that person. Yes. And then hopefully they're learning a little something too, so that someone could provide that for you, because how special would that be? I am so lucky. I have Kit, who will always listen and is my coach. So, and I think everyone deserves a Kit.
My gosh, that is the greatest compliment.
Just know that.
Thank you.
I'm the luckiest.
Well, see, this is a sign of a good relationship, because I happen to think I'm the luckiest.
Oh my gosh, we like each other a little bit. It's good. It's good.
Listening with real intent means being open to being wrong. Obviously, we don't go into things thinking I'm probably wrong. We think we're right. We're going off the information we have. But when we get new information that conflicts with our current understanding, allowing room and possibility that maybe I'm wrong leaves room for you to grow, to change, and to not have that uncomfortable conflict when information is at odds with your current understanding and your brain can't process it and just rejects everything because it can't handle this dichotomy. If you can get comfortable with the idea that you're right with what you know right now, but as you learn more, that may or may not hold, it gives you the platform to listen with that open mind of acceptance, and you won't have to discard conflicting information when it comes in.
Very well said. Yeah. And to get comfortable with a little bit of discomfort. It's going to help your relationships grow even more.
It doesn't mean that you're not smart or that you're a person who hasn't figured things out yet. It shows that you have the confidence to be open to having flexibility of thinking. And that's going to allow you the opportunity to come out further ahead than if you were rigid in your current understanding.
For sure. Love it. Tool number 4, pay attention to your talk-listen ratio.
We have a target for you. Strive for a 2-to-1 ratio of listening to talking.
This one is really hard for me when I'm excited, especially because people with ADHD have sort of this tick where we interrupt people. And it's because you kind of just word vomit your thoughts. And so this one is definitely challenging, but it's good to have this little SMART goal, that target of listening to speaking ratio, especially, for people who kind of feel like they have a lot to say.
I have some comforting info based on personal experience here. Number 1, all the little things that come up in my ADHD brain as somebody's talking that I want to just put a pin, like, we'll come back to this. I want to hear more of what you say, but I want to say this, but obviously you can't because it derails what the person's thinking and where they're going with it. This is an area where practice makes improvement. And as you get better and better about putting a pin in your knee-jerk response, I have realized how many of those things aren't relevant, aren't important, would have taken the conversation. Like, I'm so glad in retrospect that I managed the self-control to not interject with them, because when the person kept going, I realized how inappropriate or off topic or random, or that my brain came up with it, but only because I didn't have all the information yet and it actually wasn't on topic.
Yeah.
As I've practiced that, I think, all those years that I just interrupted with these little things, it was so derailing of where subsequent beautiful conversations wound up going when I kept my mouth shut and let the other person guide the direction.
Wow. It makes me feel better that practice makes perfect. Kind of letting you in on a few secrets, and happy to do so. Mm-hmm. One of those secrets is that giving the gift of listening, as we discussed, but also giving the gift of silence. So not responding all the time to what my client's saying gives them a little bit of space to then let out more thoughts. So oftentimes, I'll ask a question, my client will respond, and I'll feel it's appropriate to meet it with just a beat or two of silence. There's often more that comes out, and they begin to talk. And some nugget comes out that would not have been there if it weren't for giving the space and the silence. So it's really cool to see that come to light and realize, there was more there. Yes, I knew it.
That is such a good point. That's like tool 4, part B.
Yeah.
Becoming comfortable with silence. So many people aren't. They think, silence equals awkward. Come up with something to say. Pretty much blanket rule, don't say the things that you came up with to say to fill the space. They're not valuable. They're things you feel pressured to spit out there. And if you can get comfortable with having some quiet time, some silent moments in the conversation, the other person will typically piggyback onto what they were saying. They won't come up with some random silence filler. They're thinking about what they just finished saying, and it'll usually go to a deeper place.
Most of the time, yeah. It's pretty cool. Now that you know the secret, if you enact it, you'll start to observe it. Mm-hmm. Be like, wow, there was more they wanted to say.
Yeah. Tool number 5. This is another great coaching tool that we're sharing with you today. It's repeat back what you just heard.
Yes, queen.
In coaching, we call it reflection. I think Kaelynn is particularly skilled in this.
Oh, shucks.
You'll say, what I just heard you say is, it's a super effective tool in daily conversations. Talking to your kids, talking to your friend, talking to your spouse, talking to your boss. It's really excellent for getting confirmation of the person's point.
Because they might correct you, and that's perfectly fine too. Then, makes it all the better. And if you were right when you reflect back what they say, it kind of puts it in more concretely to them. Like, that is like what I
validates.
said. Yeah.
Well, they feel really heard. They're like, yes. And as you said, when the answer is no, when you didn't have it right, now you at least both know you didn't have it right. Because so many problems interfere with someone's ability to communicate effectively.
Miscommunication.
So many things interfere with somebody's ability to understand accurately what the other person's trying to communicate. So when you do this tool of reflection, even when the answer is no, that's not what I was trying to say. At least now you both know. So you're not moving forward on what is now a misunderstanding. The person gets the opportunity to go back and try again.
And reflection, repeating back what you hear, is also, it's a huge component of active listening. I think, I've thrown that term out a few times already. And so active listening is not only, you're not listening to respond, right? You're listening with curiosity, and repeating back what you heard allows that to come to fruition.
Yes.
You're basically walking the walk at that point. You're not saying, oh, you party plan, I went to a party. You're saying, oh, you party plan, and you ask them why, and you respond back with, like, oh, so what I heard you say was you really like party planning because it makes you feel social and accomplished, and you thrive in chaos? And she goes, yeah.
Right. And sometimes the person will be like, is that what I was saying? Wow, I guess that really was what I was saying. And then they're all impressed with your ability to put into similar but different words, how they're actually feeling. And that's pretty cool when you hear somebody put your words and your feelings into their words and you hear it in their voice. It's incredibly validating.
I've had clients say, oh my gosh, I didn't sound like that when I said it, but when you said it, it sounded so profound. And I'm like, babe, I'm just using your words. You said it. It's one of my favorite tools.
All right, our final tool for today, tool number 6. Actually wait until someone is done, completely done, talking before you respond. The most difficult component of listening effectively is waiting for a period at the end of the sentence, giving that little space, and then formulate your reply. Don't start formulating when they're still talking. Pause, formulate, respond.
This can be particularly difficult if you're dealing with a particularly long-winded person. Okay, this can be challenging. So just focus on your breathing and try to look at their mouth and what they're saying. And, just try your best.
When you begin trying to formulate your response before the person is finished, you lose completeness of information being offered because your mind's now divided halfway between listening and halfway between thinking about what you're going to say. It's harder to get the gist, the true understanding of what they're laying down. And it's also hard to keep track of emotion and emphasis and facial expressions, all the other ways that people communicate besides just their words when your brain is shifting into response mode.
Definitely.
You mentioned when people are extremely long-winded, that's a great opportunity to use the reflection tool.
When you get a minute.
Or to make the minute for yourself where you're pushing pause for them. You're basically cutting in, not to cut them off, but to buy yourself some processing time to say, what I think I'm hearing you saying is...
Yep.
And then you leave it with like a ... so that they realize if it's a yes, that's what I'm saying, they get to continue. But you've now bought yourself some processing time because there's only so much your short-term memory can hold until it gets full, and then you start losing the beginning of what they said by the end of what they said. So you can use these tools to parse that out, especially when it's these longer-winded individuals, and buy that processing time for yourself.
I love the way you worded that, buying the processing time for yourself.
Yeah, that comes from personal experience because I know I need that sometimes. I can feel my mind. It's like a little sieve, like that early information that I don't want to lose, but the container is full. So it's either going to start dropping out the beginning of what they said, or it's just going to cut off and I'm not going to get the end of what they said.
So true. So relatable. Well, we've hoped that you've learned a thing or two about listening and hope that you enjoyed a few of the coaching secrets that we're so happy to share with you. If you have any questions, comments, DM us at Soulfull Wellness or shoot us an email at sfowpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks so much for joining us this week. Peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light. The Soulfull Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers. So full of wellness.